This book was published in September 2018. A Christmas book in September? What's even stranger is that this is book 18, book 17 is coming out next year. Why did they publish book 18 before book 17? I am so confused right now.
Argofunk Book Review, Argofunk Book Review.
This is a double-length book. Awesome. Although now I'm wondering why the first book of the series wasn't double-length. That would have been so much better than splitting it up into 2 books. Nancy's going to Grand Sky Lodge, a ski resort in Montana. On the plane ride, Nancy meets travel writer Carol Fremont. Carol thinks eco-resorts are just a trend, which prompts Nancy to lecture her on the importance of carbon footprints and renewable energy, and oh boy, this is not starting things off on the right foot. I love the environment, but I'm sorry. Condescending lectures right at the start of the book is not a good hook to draw in readers. In the baggage claim, Nancy meets Liz and Brady, who run a charity for foster kids. They take a hybrid van to the resort. Their driver is Jackie, a happy woman who gossips a lot. The drive is interrupted by environmental protesters. See, a big oil company wants to build a pipeline that goes through the area. An oil company! Those monsters! Why do they always destroy nature? Those greedy villains create oil spills which poison the water and the soil. And they don't care. I'm fairly certain oil companies don't want oil spills to happen, but I get your point. Please put down the angry machete, Nancy. Most people in town support the pipeline project, and they've already signed expensive land lease contracts with the oil company. State Representative Grant Alexander tentatively supports the pipeline. Grant is the co-owner of the Eco Lodge. When Nancy hears this, she is mad. Like, really mad. That's so bad, it's not good. Thank you for that thought-out, articulate explanation, Nancy. The lodge's other owner is Archie, who wants to stop the pipeline project by turning the lodge's land into a wildlife reserve that lasts forever, with no take-backsies. Of course, the Eco Lodge has a restaurant entirely made up of organic, locally sourced food. It's run by a celebrity named Chef K, who's famous for constantly screaming at everyone. Somehow, this does not make her unemployable. Nancy is a last-minute replacement for Chef K in the resort's first ski run. The slope is allegedly easy, but Nancy hits a rough ice patch, she flies into a wall of snow, and breaks her leg. Doc Sherman puts her in a giant cast and tells her to stay off her leg for a full week. She needs total bed rest, she should only move to do things like eat and use the bathroom. That would make for a super boring book, though, so Nancy convinces herself it's totally okay if she ignores the doctor's orders. She uses a wheelchair for the rest of the trip. Nancy and Carol take broken leg selfies for Instagram, complete with long hashtags. After that, the author asks readers, "How do you do, fellow kids?" In all seriousness, though, I'd much rather have this tech-savvy Nancy over the book 2 Nancy, who doesn't know how internet searches work. That was so stupid. A mean man named Dino has a grudge against the lodge, because he was originally supposed to inherit it. He tries to ruin opening day ceremonies by causing a scene. Archie tries to calm Dino down with a lecture about the importance of preserving the beautiful landscape. Unsurprisingly, this doesn't work. It doesn't make Dino any happier. Chef K throws a fit and attacks Dino with a cleaver. This does work, and he leaves pretty much forever. At dinner, everybody washes their hands with red towels. Their hands start burning, and Nancy realizes the towels were covered with hot pepper! Oh no! There's a Sabotage mystery in the Sabotage mystery series! Who could have foreseen this? Carol writes clickbait articles after every Sabotage incident, and Nancy starts spying on people through her window, 'cause she's a creepy peeping Tom. She sees Grant and Archie get into a fight, and she sees someone breaking into Grant's room. Nancy's about to call security to stop the thief, when she remembers she can't capture the culprit this early on in the book. And besides, it's 1:30 in the morning. If she called for help, she'd have to answer awkward questions about why she's using binoculars to look into a man's room at this time. Nancy learns the break-ins have been happening for weeks, although nothing has been stolen. She also hears a rumor that the resort's original owners hid a huge cache of gold somewhere on the property, for reasons that aren't explained. Why didn't they spend the gold themselves? That would have made a lot more sense. Someone turns off a heat lamp in the greenhouse, killing some plants. Chef K throws a fit. Nancy investigates by searching the greenhouse. No, wait. Nancy investigates by searching the restaurant's trash. She finds the culprit's rubber gloves and goggles, which are coated with pepper. The goggles have a distinctive red hair on them. Nancy confronts the only red-headed person on staff. But first, in the lounge, Nancy notices a blonde teenager is pretending to use his phone when he's really spying on Grant. Grant writes something on a notepad and leaves. The teen takes a rubbing of Grant's note and runs off with it. The redhead readily admits that an anonymous person has been paying him to sabotage Chef K. Chef K insists on calling the police, and so we meet Sheriff Pruitt. Pruitt is a minor villain who openly insults Archie for trying to stop the pipeline. He laughs off their complaints and refuses to arrest the redhead, even though he's already confessed to vandalizing the greenhouse and Chef K wants to press charges. Nancy notices they're being spied on. She points out, "Hey, there's the kid who was spying on Grant earlier. He's spying on Grant again!" Pruitt slams the teenager against the wall and searches him. His name is Frank Hardy. Sounds like a law-breaking punk, if you ask me. Frank has a Swiss Army knife that has clearly been used to pick a lock recently. Nancy mentions she saw somebody break into Grant's office last night. Throw in the fact that Frank is a non-guest who's trespassing on the lodge's property, and yeah, I'd say Sheriff Pruitt has good reason to suspect Frank. Nancy herself suspected Frank 3 pages ago, but that was 3 pages ago! Here, she completely changes her mind and decides Frank is 100% innocent. She says Sheriff Pruitt is clearly breaking the law by arresting Frank without cause. If you ignore that physical evidence and eyewitness testimony, that is. At the exact same time, Nancy and Frank both say this is a wrongful arrest in violation of the Fourth Amendment pursuant to Title 42, Section 1983 of the Nerds! Frank is arrested and Nancy meets his brother Joe. They snipe at each other until they realize they're both awesome teenage detectives. They officially team up to solve the case. At night, Nancy sees Chef K going out into the snow. She investigates with Brady and Liz. Chef K's footprints lead directly into a wall, which turns out to be a hidden door that goes to a pantry. The door is hidden by shelves. Nancy asks Chef K if she's checked the other 2 shelves in the pantry for hidden passageways. Chef K's response is basically, "Why would I do that?" Why would you not do that? They're secret passageways! The culprit leaves an animal trap by the hidden door. Liz accidentally triggers it with her ski pole, but the trap is definitely meant for Chef K. Chef K is so frightened that Liz gives her a hug. Aww, the angry chef is secretly a big old teddy bear. The detectives do a video chat. Joe instantly develops a crush on Bess, while Frank has a crush on George. Frank and George? Really? You know, Nancy, Ned, and Frank are the classic love triangle of the Nancy Drew universe, right? George doesn't notice Frank's affection for her. Poor Frank. Grant has a shady past. He took a large campaign contribution from the oil company, and shortly afterwards, he bought stock in a company that makes pipeline parts. Grant will later get busted for insider trading over this, even though the existence of the pipeline project is public knowledge. Heck, the Hardy Boys even heard about it, and they live on the other side of the country. This is not confidential information. Nancy notices somebody moved the flags around on a slope. She calls in a warning, and as a result, Chef K is saved from a deadly accident. The trail cameras show an employee named Marnie is the saboteur. Marnie is arrested, but Nancy thinks she's innocent, because Marnie was nice to Nancy 200 pages ago. Obviously, being nice the one time is proof of innocence forever. Nancy decides to investigate the slopes. She takes a one-horse open sleigh with Jackie, and they're attacked by two culprits in snowmobiles. Jackie is knocked down, and the culprits use a gun to send the horse into a wild panic. Nancy almost dies when the horse runs away. She almost dies again when there's an avalanche. She almost dies a third time when the horse goes onto a lake. So many near-death scenes. Doc Sherman is angry with Nancy for not following his orders to stay off her leg, and Liz's kids read Dracula in the reading room. Nancy is struck with inspiration. Dracula is a shapeshifter, and that's sort of like a hidden passageway. Therefore, there's a hidden passageway in the reading room. That is a completely illogical line of thinking, but of course, Nancy is correct. Joe enters the hidden passageway, which is booby-trapped. There's a whole network of passages, which is how the culprit's been moving around the resort. There's also a Marnie disguise, proving that Marnie was framed. Our heroes decide to set a trap for the culprit. They leave a note telling the culprit to show up at the hedge maze around midnight. Joe hides in the maze ahead of time so he can see who shows up. Nancy watches everything from the safety of her hotel room, which is actually a much better plan than hiding in the maze and hoping you don't get noticed by a person who's already committed attempted murder. The two snowmobile culprits reappear, only they've traded their guns for chainsaws. They rush the maze and try to kill Joe. While this happens, the real culprit enters Nancy's room carrying an axe. It's Jackie! Jackie explains she's been using the hidden passageways to explore the manor and search for gold. An old map indicates the mother lode is in Chef K's pantry, but Chef K refuses to let Jackie inside. That's why Jackie has been sabotaging Chef K throughout the entire book. She needs to get rid of her so she can search the pantry. I guess that makes sense, but wouldn't it have been easier to break into Chef K's pantry in the middle of the night? Jackie clearly has no problem breaking into rooms after hours. Or at least she should have tried to enter the kitchen area during Chef K's lunch break or something, before resorting to deadly sabotage. Jackie says there is a second culprit who intercepted the note. Jackie purposely plays language games here to avoid spoiling the other culprit's identity. I find it odd that she's going out of her way to protect the person who injured her in the sleigh ride incident, but okay. Jackie's accomplice is her secret boyfriend, Doc Sherman. The doctor confesses that Nancy's leg isn't broken. He put a fake cast on her to keep her off the case. He's had a change of heart thanks to the sleigh riding incident. He doesn't want to hurt anybody else. He wants to give up the scheme and confess to the police. Nancy distracts Jackie by throwing pepper in her face. Jackie stumbles around randomly, and she knocks Nancy out a window. Nancy falls 2 stories to her death, and just kidding. Liz and Brady save Nancy by catching her in a blanket. The blanket was used as a cape for a vampire snowman, so that's twice Dracula has helped Nancy out. Grant gives himself away as the second culprit by revealing he knows there are chainsaw-wielding maniacs in the maze. Grant makes a run for it, but he's stopped by Chef K. As you might have guessed, Grant is the culprit because he's working with the evil oil company. That's bad! That's so bad, it's not good! Representative Grant, you should have gone bankrupt rather than support a project your constituents approve of, you greedy monster! Grant got the snowmobile culprits from the oil company. Apparently, pipe makers loan out hitmen. Who knew? Grant only wanted to scare Nancy off the case. When they tried to kill her instead, Grant was so horrified he decided to cut all ties with the oil company forever. Good for him. Only 2 hours later, he saw the threatening note and immediately rehired the oil company's thugs. That was a rather short-lived change of heart. The ending chapter is 7 pages long and split into 2 chapters for no apparent reason. All the culprits are arrested, Nancy's friends are flown in, and Frank is sad when he can't get George's attention. His crush doesn't even know he exists. I feel your pain, Frank. Carol's article and the resort are a huge success. They search Chef K's pantry and find a golden treasure chest. Only the gold was emptied out months ago by the lodge's last owners. They left behind a note teasing Jackie for being a slow treasure hunter. The end. Post-book follow-up. This is the only book in the series without a paperback edition. I don't know why. I wonder if this book was originally going to be a Nancy Drew Hardy Boy super mystery. After all, it's double length, it's got 2 separate culprit groups, and there's romance drama when the detectives team up. It meets all the standard requirements of the super mystery series. I like it better as a Nancy Drew book, though. This way, the Hardys are a fun surprise. And really, Nancy spends far too little time with them for the crossover to be the book's main selling point. Not that the Christmas angle was important enough to be the main selling point. The book easily could have happened in February with no differences. I disliked the start of the book, but thankfully it gets way better after the first 2 chapters. I guess the author had start of book jitters, which is understandable. I will say that Chapter 12 was a strange one. It's made up of several short sections, including one that's 2 paragraphs long. That doesn't need its own section. What happens is that Archie closes the investigation and reopens it after 2 more sabotage incidents, so the chapter finishes right where it started. Police officers using excessive force against innocent people was in the news around the time the book would have been written. I appreciate the fact that the author tried to include a real-life issue, but it doesn't quite work since Frank was given a pat-down with good reason. I agree, Sheriff Pruitt mishandled the case, he deserved to be punished for it, and it was wrong of him to shove Frank against a wall, but it's not excessive force for him to give Frank a pat-down. Overall, it was a mostly good book. It's certainly much better than the previous one, where Nancy is constantly in fear of peeing herself. The main problems are the slow start and the overbearing environmental lectures that make it totally obvious the culprit will be working with the oil company. The main highlights of the book are the surprise Hardy Boys appearance and Nancy's determination to solve the case despite a broken leg. Nothing stops her! I give Nancy Drew Diaries number 18, A Nancy Drew Christmas, an 8 out of 10.